Part 2 of session 54. Today, let's talk about activating energy centers and catalyst. Let's catalyze. So, we need a little bit of a recap from last video. And yes, today I'm flashing my new ankh. Actually, for about 3 years, I have been studying the Law of One, and I've never had an ankh. So Julie bought me one, and now I'm wearing it. So, on to the recap. In the last video, we talked about the conversation went from dimensionalities and how we as co-creators actually reside in the whole octave. We are not part of just one dimension or one density. And that led to energy centers. And on the last couple of questions, which I want to recap because they're important for the next question at least, is that, I'm not going to read it, but he asked about if energy centers could be blocked completely. And Ra said yes, that is possible, which I gave the example of the negative entity who can actually block completely the hearts and use that energy. So I suppose that's one of the ways, but positive entities can also actually have pretty good blockages. So that's another possibility. And I think now this one I do need to read because I don't remember. No, I think that was the last one. The last question that we covered was question 12, and that was about the complete blockage. So we can go straight. This session is long, so this is going to be part 2 of 3. I'm pretty sure because I'm not going to cover everything. So question 13. Don asks, okay, then I assume that the first distortion is the, shall I say, motivator, or what allows this blockage. Is this correct? Rod's gonna give their usual warning. We wish no quibbling, but prefer to avoid the use of terms such as the verb to allow. Free will does not allow, nor would predetermination disallow experiential distortions. Rather, the law of confusion offers a free reach for the energies of each mind-body-spirit complex. The verb to allow would be considered pejorative in that it suggests a polarity between right and wrong, or allowed and not allowed. This may seem a minuscule point. However, to our best way of thinking, it bears some weight. And these are the nuances of language that I love from Ra, because I myself try my best when I use language to not create a sort of dual interpretation of what things mean, especially when we talk about a specific model, or if we agree, like philosophically, we have to always create a basis for the argument, and that basis needs to be respected, meaning that we can start with a base that has a meaning for a word, and then later on within the argument change the meaning of the word just because it suits our views. And so if you can understand this is the reason why certain words, it's not that they're bad or wrong to use. You can certainly use it in a descriptive way. But here, to allow seems to generate a sort of judge or governance that creates the possibility of something to be allowed or disallowed. And that's what Ra is referring here. I usually am more cautious with words when I'm trying to describe consciousness, because consciousness in and of itself does not depend from the mind. It does not depend on the processes of the mind. And so when I talk about consciousness, I have to use the mind. Therefore, I need to use language which is derived from the mind, and from there I need to make always assertions as to what they actually mean. Meaning that, for example, that you take a step back from the mind into consciousness, and that seems to infer that we are actually in the mind and that we take a step back. But that's just a concession, a sort of a language concession to understanding that we are focusing our consciousness into the mind. So anyhow, I don't wish this to be too more confusing, but just as an example of what I tend to find, that language is important when you're trying to explain not a concept, but just reality. That's the word, reality. So we play with language to try to show reality as it is, poetically, which is really the best language that we have. Descriptive language is, as Emerson used to say, it's fossil poetry. So, in any case, they're just saying, the law of Confucian doesn't allow or disallow. It just offers a free reach for the energies of each mind, body, spirit complex. Free will and law of Confucian, one and the same, by the way. So, yeah, it's considered pejorative. Pejorative is, it's the idea that it could be, it's a negative view of it. So in any case, there's nothing allowing or disallowing. That's their correction. So, but I think, I forgot what Don asked. I assume that the first distortion is the motivator or what allows this blockage. Yeah, it's a poorly phrased question, I guess, because free will is just the free exploring of infinity. Just put it that way. The free will, or the first distortion, is the freedom of exploring of infinity through finity. So, all right, let's move to question 14. And Don says, thank you. It bears weight to my way of thinking also, and I appreciate what you have told me. Now, I would like to then consider the origin of catalyst in, first, we have the condition of mind, body, spirit complex, which, as a function of the first distortion, has reached a condition of blockage, or partial blockage, of one or more energy centers. I will assume that catalyst is necessary only if there is at least partial blockage of one energy center. Is this correct? And Ra is going to say pretty much nope. So Don is going to say, can you tell me why? And Ra is going to say, while it is a primary priority to activate or unblock each energy center, it is also a primary priority at that point to begin to refine the balances between the energies so that each tone of the chord of total vibratory beingness resonates in clarity, tune, and harmony with each other energy. I suppose that's each energy center, or each energy, I don't know, each energy flowing, I guess. So Don's question was if catalyst was only needed, right? So we have the condition of blockage, and he assumes that catalyst is only needed if there is at least some partial blockage, and that's not true. We don't need catalyst to just activate or unblock energy centers. We need catalyst for everything. Catalyst is what brings experience. So Ra is saying that while the priority to activate or unblock each energy center, it is also a priority that at that point to begin to refine the balances between the energies of that, so that each tone of the chord of total vibratory beingness resonates in clarity. So what I get from this is that it is a priority to activate. It's almost like, okay, you have your energy centers, you want to activate them, and you have to make use of catalyst, proper use of catalyst to activate those energy centers and evolve. But it is also a primary priority. See, they say a primary priority is not the first priority. At that point, now they're referring to at that point of activating. Like once your energy center is activated, it is a primary priority also to basically start refining. Because say, let me put a great example. I think somebody who now activates its heart, his heart, her heart, it has activated, it has unblocked, and now has a lot of energy. But catalyst will be needed to refine, to balance that energy centers, because it's not just a mechanism that opens up and suddenly you're one with the creator. You have to balance yourself. You are a unique expression of the creator, so that balancing, as it's meant to be, needs to be sought. It needs to be found, discovered, enjoyed, rather. This seems, see, language again seems to always tell us that we need to accomplish something, that we need to work for something. That means, suffering and going. I could say just enjoy. If you open your heart for the first time, enjoy it. Yes, it's going to be, some amazing experience. It's going to be overwhelming and so on, but just enjoy it. Enjoy everything, because you're not your heart, you're not, your third eye, you're not your solar plexus. Those are simply lenses in which we perceive reality. And through those lenses, we can balance in so many ways, infinite ways, the way we see the universe. And that's what the creator is doing. That's what you are doing from your own unique perspective. So Ra is saying, in essence, that, for this balance to happen, we need to have catalyst. And, that's, I think they have more to say. They do. But that's, that's the essence of it. Each tone of the chord of total vibratory beingness resonates in clarity, tune, and harmony with each energy, with each other energy. I don't know if they meant energy center or simply energy that is flowing. I don't know. Both anyways, because each energy center actually expresses the energy that is flowing. So whatever, doesn't matter. Ra finishes up and says, this balancing, tuning, and harmonizing of the self is most central to the more advanced or adept mind-body-spirit complex. Each energy may be activated without the beauty that is possible through the disciplines and appreciations of personal energies, or what you might call the deeper personality or soul identity. Beautiful. So this balancing, tuning, and harmonizing of the self, all this process of enjoying your view of the world, of truly enjoying it and making peace with the energy that is flowing through you, that is the most central and more advanced or adept mind. What do they say? That is most central to the more advanced or adept. Yes, well, it's the same thing. Adept or more advanced mind, body, spirit complex. Advanced in the sense of evolution or harmonized being. Probably harmonized sounds better than evolved. Evolved seems to be, again, in our language, and God knows that we have so much political language right now. I was even discussing with my son the other day that I feel like a troglodyte. I feel like a sort of caveman because um, every week it seems, or every month at least, there seems to be a new term to refer to people, and other terms seem to be offensive and pejorative. It's hard to keep up. Sometimes you just say what you say, and I suppose hopefully concede, that there's no ill intention. But yeah, language has become that. So again, advanced or harmonized mind, body, spirit complex. Each energy center may be activated without the beauty that is possible through the disciplines. So exactly like I said, see, you open your heart, and I think that's the best example. That's a huge energy center activation. And it needs balance, and it's wisdom. It needs actually to pay attention to its lower energy centers. It needs to balance its own love and wisdom. So all of these things are necessary, and for that you need catalyst. So I'm trying to get as much as I can from this part, but I'm pretty sure we're gonna get to part 3. However, question 16, Don says, let me make an analogy that I have just thought of. A 7-string musical instrument may be played by deflecting each string a full deflection and releasing it, and getting a note. Or, once the strings are capable of being deflected through their full deflection, producing a note, instead of producing the notes this way, taking the individual creative personality and deflecting each the proper amount in proper sequence to produce the music. Is this correct? This is actually beautiful. And Ron says this is correct. In the balanced individual, the energies lie waiting for the hand of the creator to pluck harmony. So, yeah, we can fantasize a lot with this. You see, there is a, I can't remember which session this was, not even close, but there is a part where Ra mentions that, I believe it's Ra, might have been Kuo, or somebody else from the Confederation, but they said that the creator lies even, in, they weren't talking about entities, but they said the energy centers, like the creator lies not, in the indigo or violet ray. The creator is expressed in each energy center. That means, and we can use this for talking about certain people who are, their conscious attention is truly focused on certain energy centers, especially the lower ones, which we tend to judge a lot because we want to bring it up to the heart so we can do some spiritual work. However, the creator lies within each energy center, and everybody has all their energy centers in potentiation. So even if the person is not evolved, advanced, harmonized, it is still an expression of the creator, and there is music being played there. Now, it is true that through the distortions, and in this way I'm using the word distortion of truly a distorted music, very dissonant music, there is the possibility, of course, of harmonizing this. And this is what we, as spiritual seekers, just to give us, a phrase or a title, as spiritual seekers, this is what we yearn for. It's not what we do. It's not something we seek per se, but just something that we yearn for, that we desire. And it's that harmony. Because harmony, we can measure it as a way of feeling one with reality. And I think that's the key word. reality, feeling one with reality. A dissonant person feels separate from reality. And so, what I'm trying to get at is at this point where for the creator to pluck harmony, you need to dissolve yourself into reality, to be one with the reality. And then the music of the creator plays through you, as opposed to you trying to take control, manipulate, dominate reality. In that case, you're causing disharmony and dissonance. And of course you're going to feel that. You're going to feel that because you're still allowing the energy to flow through you. However, you're not allowing yourself to be merged with that energy or that point of consciousness that you are. And so, but still, anybody who is in this dissonance is a beautiful expression of the creation. Because, again, how could we know harmony if we don't know disharmony? And so, in the same way that we may say that, what's better, light or darkness? There's no better or worse. There is just light and darkness, and they both need each other because they, although apparently opposite, they're one. And so it's the same with anybody who is going through a process of dissonance, and we all come from there. So I guess those are the two things that I wanted to take out of this, is just to know that everybody is music, and we decide to create some dissonance. That's normal. That's part of our experiential reality, the way we enjoy third density. And that all we need to do is just be one with reality, whatever is going on. No thinking, no mind. That's it. That's all I can say. There's not much to say, actually. All right. Speaking of not much to say, Don has a lot to say in question 17. And he says, I would like then to trace the evolution of catalysts upon the mind-body-spirit complexes and how it comes into use and is fully used to create this tuning. I assume that the sub-logos that form our tiny part of the creation, using the intelligence of the logos of which it is a part, provides, shall I say, the base catalyst that will act upon mind-body complexes and mind-body-spirit complexes before they reach the state of development where they can begin to program their own catalyst. Is this correct? Ross says, this is partially correct. The sub-logos offers the catalysts at the lower levels of energy. The first triad. These have to do with the survival of the physical complex. The higher centers gain catalysts from the biases of the mind-body-spirit complex itself in response to all random and directed experience. So we have explored this in a previous session. Again, my memory is pretty bad today, I guess, because I don't remember when we said this. We might have been talking about second density, so maybe session 19 or 20, possibly, but I don't remember. This might have been also Catalyst, session 33 or so, I believe. So one of those sessions. But we talked about how Catalyst is provided, and that's why Don, very perceptive of course, and a great student of the Law of One, well, a good person remembering, so he knew all this stuff. He said mind-body complexes, which means animals, and mind-body-spirit complexes, so second density and third density. He's talking about the sub-logos, basically. All right, let me give context. I'm talking like I have a line already. So Don is now asking if he wants to trace catalysts, and we know that catalyst is sort of provided by the logos. Not sort of, it's provided by the logos for the lower energy centers, for the survival, for the first instinctual responses to becoming, of being, which is, the animal way. If you trace evolution, you can understand this neatly. Particularly the second density entity, the animal, let's say, who in its process, it receives experience through the catalyst of the environment. And the environment allows the animal to create discernment as to who he is or what it is. And it realizes that he is, or it is. And this realizing that it is the work that is done in second density to evolve the third density. That I am. And that I am, funny enough, especially talking about Advaita, that I am is the prerequisite for third density. And to me, it is the resolution of the octave. So the first thing we realize is I am. That is what an animal would say, or an animal would start discerning this. I mean, this with pets. Pets realize I'm here. Hey, pay attention to me. I do this and that happens. And they see, I'm thinking about Oliver. My dog sees, that his actions create reactions, and it's him. So you see this beautiful interplay of actions that allows him to realize that he is. And so that self-awareness is what he is sort of harnessing. He's collecting. And hopefully he will graduate to third density. And in third density, that's what we deal with. I am. I exist. This doesn't happen until you're probably 5-7 years old or so. Because when you're born, and that's, I don't want to get into this, but it's just a beautiful way to describe the evolution of consciousness and how we as babies know that we are the universe. There is no separation as babies. But we develop this I am, and this I am gets laden with titles and divisions and so on, which is the proper way of third density. That's how you process new catalysts for experience, and or experience in general. So this process of receiving catalyst is what we get from the logos. The logos is creating this whole octave for that, for us to live within the construct of the logos. And when we interact with it, then we're making use of that catalyst. Now, this catalyst is just basic, and this is what Ra is saying here. For animals and for human beings, this catalyst is basic. It's a structure. So this structure, as we see it, we start creating on top of it. We are the ones painting. The basic catalyst is sort of like a canvas, a matrix. I think it's probably a better word to be used here in the raw material. So the matrix is what allows us to, create things, to build stuff. We are co-creators as we are building or manifesting or creating in the matrix. And so that's why they say the sublogos offers the catalyst at the lower levels of energy. The first triad, you exist. This is you. This is reality right here. The physical reality, at least. These have to do with the survival of the physical complex. The higher energy centers gain catalyst from the biases of the mind-body-spirit complex itself in response to all random and directed experiences. Yeah, so once again, this is the survival is just you knowing that you exist, that you're here. And as long as you live in, which is the predominance in our planet Earth, as long as we live in me, I need to survive, what's in it for me, and all of this, you're trapped in the lower energy centers, in the lower densities. You're trapped there. That's fine. You will eventually realize that this is not all about you. Actually, it's all about you, but you are not the separate self. And it's all about you being an extension, or everything being an extension of you. So that is when the biases of the mind-body-spirit complex needs to obviously be directed to the higher energy centers, whether positive or negative. So, Ra has more to say and says, thus the less developed entity will perceive the catalyst about it in terms of survival of the physical complex with the distortions which are preferred. The more conscious entity, being conscious of the catalytic process, will begin to transform the catalyst offered by the sublogos into catalysts which may act upon the higher energy nexi. So this is actually just, I kind of alluded to all of this already. See, the less developed entity, or less harmonized, actually develop this word may be used for not activated energy centers. So an entity who is less developed may not have higher energy centers activated, and that being the heart and so on, because we have yellow ray activated here. You have to. You energize it a lot more. You sort of add more to it, whether positive or negative, but you have it activated already. So in any case, it'll perceive everything as survival, just like I said, with distortions which are preferred, depending on how they perceive the world in survival. You know, you can see this in the news. The news never give you anything heart related. Never. Maybe there's a fluke somewhere, and we do get, you know, some love and understanding and union and companionship and sharing and all of this. But look at the news. The news are always focused on that. And a lot of people are living the news. They are focused on that. Those are the distortions that are preferred. You know, war, strife, there is mass exodus, the coronavirus, whatever. All of this is the distortions preferred by less developed entities, and that's just how it is. You know, that's why you can see also here the suppression by the negative philosophy to maintain people focus on the unimportant. But again, that's just how it is. The more conscious entity, being conscious of the catalytic process, will begin to transform the catalyst offered by the sublogos into catalysts which may act upon the high energy nexi. So see, now you're co-creating. Now, when you take this catalyst, the same catalyst, you know, the war, the strife, the health issues, and your struggles with life, and so all of this that may be seen by the less advanced entity as survival, I must be scared, I must be on my toes all the time, and all of this. You begin to use this as, oh, I see what's happening. This is all me. This is all happening for me. And I am you. And so now you're starting to shape reality. You are taking it into your own hands. You're not being told what's happening. You know what's happening. So there is no cookie cutter for this. Actually, there's no recipe for this. You create anything. As long as you're creating from love, then you are creating. Otherwise, you're manipulating reality, which is what the negatives do. The negatives cannot create anything, because you cannot create anything without love. However, you can take what has been created and use it for depicting a reality that is not. This is what David Icke calls inversion of reality. It's taking that has been created to show something different and distort it for your own gains. Man, I want to look for that quote from J.R.R. Tolkien, who said that evil cannot create anything new. It can only take what has been created and destroy it. I forgot. It's a very famous now because of Amazon's. I'll probably look it up because I think this is so... I'm sorry that I have to type and... but I want to share this quote. And I'm always butchering quotes, so... type today. It's so relevant right now because that's exactly corrupt is the word that he used. Evil cannot create anything new. They can only corrupt and ruin what good forces have invented or made. I love it. See, this is negative entities at work. They cannot create anything new. So then again, just go back to the raw material, and you see that this is what's happening. You know, you have to use your heart. You know, you create with love, and so that's it. That's the prerequisite. Just create with love. You know, love means all inclusive. There is no separation, and if you're feeling separate, then, you know, maybe you have a blockage in your heart. That's beautiful. You will unblock that and create infinity in front of you for others. Oh, it's so beautiful. All right. Ra has most to say. Ra says, thus the sublogos can offer only a basic skeleton, shall we say, of catalyst. The muscles and flesh, having to do with the, shall we say, survival of wisdom, love, compassion, and service, are brought about by the action of the mind-body-spirit complex and basic catalyst so as to create a more complex catalyst, which may, in turn, be used to form distortions within these higher energy centers. What are these distortions? You see, now we're going back to the meaning of distortion within the raw material, and it is any form of alteration of infinity. Light is a distortion. It's the first, actually, this is the third distortion. But it's one of the primal distortions. So from light come all the other distortions that we have, all the infinite. It is happening right now at all times. I remember when Don asked the first distortions, and Ra said, the first one is that infinity became aware, and so free will is the first distortion. And from free will came love. That's the second distortion. And from love, love impregnated light as the third distortion. So it would manifest itself, and that is love, light, light, love. It is the manifestation of infinity. Intelligent energy, we call it too. And from there, Don asks, all right, what follows next? And Ra says, what's next is what's happening right now. You know, it's the infinite distortions that we are. So that is the distortion that they're talking about here when they said, my God, Ra doesn't use commas except for incise. All right, when they said to be used from distortions within the these higher energy centers, they're talking about that. They're talking about the higher energy center usage of energy for new distortions for your creation. And you see, I love it. When I said that this was like a matrix, a structure, Ra is saying that this is a basic skeleton, a basic skeleton of catalyst. That is what the sublogos gives us, the sun gives us in the octave of creation here in the solar system. The muscles and flesh having to do with the survival of wisdom, love, and compassion, basically us. We create that. We are the muscles and flesh is the wisdom, love, and compassion and service. They are brought about by the actions of the mind-body-spirit complex on basic catalysts, so as to create more complex catalysts that is later used by the higher energy centers. So an advanced being, an adept, stops seeing themselves as a victim of the world, as being moved by the world, and they see themselves as the world. And they say, wow, this is amazing. Let me see what I can do. Because from this perspective, all I'm seeing is myself in different aspects. So from there, it creates. And from that creation, we get the multiplicity of beautiful artistic expressions of the world that we have. Innovations and so on. Technology is actually an expression of that. You see, technology has been created with love, but it's not treated with love. See how I explained that everything is created with love? Well, technology was created with love. I mean, powder, the thing that we have used for hundreds of years already to kill each other, that was created with love. Found with love. In the Chinese, I believe, if my history is right there, they had powder for probably hundreds of years, thousands of years before we found it, and say, oh wow, we can use this and manipulate it for extortions. So whatever, that's just how it works, and we just use it. Again, we need negativity. I don't want to sound like, I'm against negativity. If you take the negative, you can't have a positive. So Ra has more to say. This is actually looking beautiful so far. All right, Ra finishes this answer, question 17, with saying, the more advanced the entity, the more tenuous the connection between the sublogos and the perceived catalyst, until finally all catalyst is chosen, generated, and manufactured by the self for the self. Of course. So now you can see this final remark from Ra as how it is. The more advanced the entity, the more tenuous the connection between the sublogos, because the sublogos is no longer, it's providing catalyst, but it's not being perceived as survival, as something from the being to be used for its own gain, for its own survival. Even the negatives have to become so diluted from or separate from reality, I'm assuming, that they no longer care about their survival, because they know who they are. They are God, but just a mistaken God. So anyhow, we can move to question 18. I think I elaborated on this enough. Don says, which entities incarnate at this time on this planet would be of that category, manufacturing all of their catalyst? Ra says, we find your query indeterminate, but can respond that the number of those which have mastered outer catalyst completely is quite small. Most of those harvestable at this space-time nexus have partial control over the outer illusion and are using the outer catalyst to work upon some bias, which is not yet in balance. Don sometimes asks these questions, which are impossible to answer. However, I think they're beautiful because by extrapolation we can get a lot of information. Don is asking how many of the people incarnated in 1981, 4.5 billion people, were in total control of their catalyst. And Ra simply says, it's I don't know if it's the question. I think they understand the question. So indeterminate might have to do with their calculations, their numbers, because they say we can, but can't respond that the number. Yeah, I'm not sure. But in any case, they just simply say that they can't really say. They say that they can't really say how many. But yeah, the ones that are that have mastered outer catalyst is completely it's quite small. That have mastered outer catalyst completely is quite small. And now see where I get a lot of information here. When they say, first of all, most of those harvestable, okay? So of the harvestable people on planet Earth, which we can easily infer by what Ra has said, it's a very tiny portion. A very tiny portion is harvestable. I'm talking about 1981, but still, just for illustration purposes, a very small portion was harvestable back then. Of that portion, of those, most of those harvestable at this space-time have partial control over the outer illusion and are using the outer catalyst to work upon some bias which is not yet in balance. This bias is what they came here to balance, to create, to manifest, actually, because that's already there. Their energy centers lie in potentiation, which means that they just need to, I'm going to use the word discover, so as to balance them, activate them and balance them. So, see, small percentage of people are harvestable, and the vast majority, most of them, are of the harvestable, are still using, have partial control over the outer illusion, and are using it for shaping, in essence, their own beingness. So we're talking about people who have achieved harvest and are still working with outer catalysts to balance this out. This, I would say, is the majority of us. We are still shaping who we are. We're not pretty sure. Actually, that's why we're doing all this stuff. This is why we're not just simply sitting on a plaza or in the forest just chilling out. We have things to balance, you know, for our perceived self. We talked about in the last session about the purpose of Wanderers, which is also the balancing of the social memory complex itself too, through our unique biases. So this is more complex than I want to make it, but the point is that, you know, it's not like we need to find that balance, otherwise we're stuck here. No, you could be always balancing yourself. You can always be playing more music out of the instrument that you are. Otherwise, if you balance yourself completely, you just, get dissolved into nothingness. Go back to the creator. You go back to the octave. All right, so question 19, Don says, in the case of service to self polarization, what type of catalyst would entities following this path program when they reach the level of programming their own catalyst? It's a good question. Ross says, the negatively oriented entity will program for maximal separation from and control over all those things and conscious entities which it perceives as being other than the self. So, the negative entity is concerned with the maximal separation. So it'll program itself to control entities and things, processes, situations. So it can polarize itself further towards the negative. It can separate itself more. That's polarity in the sense of positive and negative. Positive is unity, negative separation. So this is just the program of a negative entity. Now, one thing that I owe you, and I owe myself, is the full understanding of how a negative entity, and I'm confessing this, how a negative entity actually programs its own life experience. If it's not done through the indigo ray, or if it's done, how is it possible? I don't know. I have to say I don't know. But Ra is saying that they do program their next incarnation. And so my speculation is that a negative entity is one who has achieved a level of separation of the self from other selves to the point that it can perceive itself as an individual entity. And even after death, it'll perceive itself as a separate portion of reality. So the negative side, the negative view of separation persists after death, and it can program. I would say it prostitutes its own higher self into, and the higher self is not a separate entity, actually. It is an intelligence that is providing aid to the mind-body-spirit complex, the entity itself, with information. It's the same logos. It's the same sun. It's funny. I made this joke in the last video, but you are the sun. The sun is your catalyst. I did not intend for that. When we use the the word entity, we're talking about the sun. We're talking about, that's the one, and the sun is God or the creator. We're all the creator in any case. But what I'm trying to get at this is that the higher self is a portion of the logos serving anybody or any entity that exists manifested. And so I don't know, that's my speculation of how this works, because I don't know, I feel that the positive entity works in harmony with the higher self, in unity with the higher self, as opposed to the negative entity who kind of prostitutes the that's a word that I'm not using lightly. This is something that is inferred in the tarot when we talk about the archetypes, and how you can use the Empress as as a prostitute, or as as you, and it's your own mind. You're not using anything separate. It's your own mind. How you prostitute your own mind, how you use it, you manipulate it, you control it for your own gains. So in any case, that's the negative entity. Let's go on to question 20. Don says, I understand how a positively oriented entity would program catalysts such as that would result in physical pain if I'm assuming that an entity could program something that would give it the experience of physical pain if it did not follow the path that it had selected. Is this correct? All right, this was convoluted, and I myself, Ra says, please restate query. Alright, now that I have the camera on my face, I'll just read what Don says. A positively oriented entity may select a certain narrow path of thinking and activities during an incarnation and program conditions that would create physical pain if this path were not followed. Is this correct? Ra says, this is correct. And Don's going to ask, would a negatively oriented entity do anything like this? Would you give me an example? Alright, let's go back to slideshow. So Ra says, a negatively oriented individual mind-body-spirit complex will ordinarily program for wealth, ease of existence, and the utmost opportunity for power. Thus many negative entities burst with the physical complex distortion you call health. Alright, so all of this was Don asking about the programming of the negative entity, saying that, in essence, the way I understand it is that the positive entity programs for maximal evolution, and it would program some pain if it deviates from the path. So if I was meant to be a healer and I am not a healer, then my life would be sort of, guided by pain. It's almost like in video games. In video games, like, you're supposed to go through the path, and if you deviate from it, you start losing points or HP, or you just start losing the game, and you have to go straight back again. We play with that in so many ways, and all games actually are that way. What's a foul ball in baseball? What's a penalty in American football? Not football, not foosball, soccer. That's actually out of bounds or whatever. I mean, you get out of the game, you're penalized, you're thrown out of the game. So in the same way, that's a positive entity. Now, how does a negative entity does this? It's a really clever question from Don. And Ross says that a negatively oriented individual, well, first, in the previous question, Don just confirmed that, this is so, that we programmed this way. And this is why it's a great opportunity to also mention that, you should follow your path. And what is your path? Well, you intuitively know. You're just choosing not to pay attention to it. And that's why you, quote unquote, suffer. Or why you don't find harmony in the things that you do. Do what you love. It's that simple. Yes, to do what you love. No, I'll bring this in the conclusions. Yes, do what you love. Okay, so a negatively oriented individual, says Ra, will ordinarily program for wealth. Of course, you want to have, you want to be born in these families, ease of existence, and the utmost opportunity for power. Now, this doesn't mean that anybody who is born into wealth is a negative entity, but they would usually want to do that. Some sort of wealth. I mean, it doesn't have to be the elite of the world, although certainly those are the reserved spots for negative entities to be born. But it could be wealth within, a small community. You could do that. You could certainly do that. And that is power. As long as they can have some sort of power, they will be born in some wealthy kind of situation. Again, this doesn't mean that anybody who was born in wealth. There is a lot of people who have, you have to have, it's not just wealth. Let me just clarify this. Your upbringing, your parents, everything that will surround you. Say, I'll give you an example. Gautama Siddhartha, the Buddha, was born to a wealthy minister. I think it was a minister. He was a wealthy, he was I don't know if he was a politician, prince, whatever he was. He was a wealthy dude. And what happened to him? He decided to just, go and become the octave. So, does that mean that being born, or programmed for wealth? Actually, let me even add, because I'm misinterpreting what Ross said. They said, program for wealth. You see, Gautama actually didn't program for wealth. He actually programmed for, I don't want to say poverty, but yeah, nothingness. Sunyata. Ease of existence. See, no problems. Everything's cool. And the utmost opportunity for power. So these are the programmings. That doesn't mean it goes well. It can go wrong. Who knows? But that's what they program. Many negative entities burst with the physical complex distortion you call health. This may be debatable because not everybody who is healthy, obviously, has a negative programming. But yeah, in general, you just get the picture that negative entities want to have wealth, ease of existence, power, and health because they're afraid of dying. They're not, they're really afraid of sickness and losing what they have. Anyhow, Ross says and finishes saying, however, a negatively oriented entity may choose a painful condition in order to improve the distortion toward the so-called negative emotive mentations, such as anger, hatred, and frustration. Such an entity may use an entire incarnative experience honing a blunt edge of hatred or anger, so that it may polarize more towards the negative or separated pole. Okay. That is possible. What do they say? Painful condition, just a disease or something that may cause them to become more angry. As I was reading this right now, I remember watching this show called Vikings. It started in History Channel. I think it ended in History Channel. I don't know if they sold it. But there was Vikings. The show was based on Ragnar Lothbrok, who is a mythical figure, sort of, I would say, the 7th, 8th century. in Norway, Scandinavia, Vikings, and it's a long story, but the one that, or at least the depiction, because again, these are not real characters. They are mythical characters, meaning that they might have existed. But in any case, it was Ivar the Boneless, who was a son of Ragnar Lothbrok, the most renowned Viking in history. And Ivar, the Boneless, was born with a condition, just like Ra is mentioning here, that he couldn't move his legs, and he was paralyzed from the waist down. And his character actually uses this as a form of hatred for other people. The same thing that Ra is saying here. Frustration, anger, and all of this, like they're saying. I mean, go see a video here on YouTube about Ivar the Boneless and his character arc, and you will see exactly that. You will see a negative entity being born with this disease or this issue, so he can go. I mean, he finally became king for a short time. No spoilers, sorry. Sorry if I'm spoiling the show, but yes, let me try not to spoil any further. But yeah, you will see how he used this. He didn't die there, or he didn't die at all. I'm sorry if I'm spoiling too much. But yeah, this is, yeah, actually, I'm not sure if he died now. I forgot. I have poor memory today. But yeah, the point is that that's a good depiction of a negative entity who was born with an illness, disease, or limitation in his body, so he can use that for hatred, control, manipulation, gain power, and so on. And in this character, like I said, if you're not going to watch the show, go watch a video of, it should be a short video, just there's a lot of love for this show, so I'm pretty sure there must be a video that shows his character arc. And you will see it. You will see exactly this. So anyhow, I think I linger here too much. We're on to question 23, but we reached the hour. I think it's a rather long one. Let me see. You know what? We'll leave it here. Actually, let me read it. It's a short. Let's go to it. Right? We're here already. Why not? Alright, so Don says in question 23, now it seems that we have prior to incarnation, in any incarnation, as an entity becomes more aware of the process of evolution and has selected a path, whether it be positive or negative, at some point, the entity becomes aware of what it wants to do with respect to unblocking and balancing energy centers. At that point, it is able to program for the life experience those catalytic experiences that will aid it in its process of unblocking and balancing. Is that correct? And Ra says this is correct. And this is important. I'll probably restate this. The next question is going to be too long, but I think it's a good way to end this because it's going to give us a little bit of a bridge from this video to the next video, where we'll probably explore this a little bit more, and if not, I promise I will, because I think this is quite important. What is Don saying here? Don is saying that prior to incarnation, an entity becomes more aware of the process of evolution and has selected a path. So prior to incarnation, you're sitting there and saying, okay, I want to explore this more. This is my path. My path is unity, or my path is separation, right? Whether it be positive or negative, it says, I want more separation or I want more unity. So in order for me to explore unity or separation, I must program myself to experience this. And in this is prior to incarnation programming, right? But at some point, the entity becomes aware of what it wants, right? So now, prior to incarnation, you know what you want, but during the incarnation, you're a baby, you grow, you have no idea what's going on, and suddenly you say, I kind of like this power thing, I feel energized by it. I feel great controlling and manipulating others. I'm exploring this and I feel the power. I want to go on. You have become aware of your negative path. So you will follow it or not. You can change polarities at any point. Or in the positive side, you say, I feel this love. I feel this unity with everybody. What must I do to keep exploring this? And now this brings a huge topic here, because this is the awakening of the entity. The awakening that it's not a fluke in the universe, that is actually an entity in evolution, and that it's not just confined to this reality, confined to, oh, I'm a body that is going to decay and die, and off I go. There is no, like scientists like to say, I won't mention any names, but they like to say that, we know everything, and what we know is that consciousness simply dies, and there's no record of consciousness after that. So, that's transcended from the negative and the positive adept that opens the heart or closes the heart, becomes aware of the heart and says, no, thank you. That's not for me, or opens it and says, yes, yes, yes. Please, more love. So, it becomes more aware at this point of the awakening of what it wants to do with respect to unblocking and balancing energy centers. At that point, it is able to program for the life experience, those catalytic experiences that will aid it in its process of unblocking and balancing. So yes, this is correct. This is beautiful. Because this is the awakening of the entity realizing what it came here to do and what it came here to balance. See, as I'm talking, I'm thinking of myself, how is this me talking to a camera and a microphone helping me in my balancing? And it's doing it. And it's doing it because, I don't know, I'm just loving it and I enjoy it. So, I don't know. Leave me in the comments, what do you think about this? Am I balancing something or not? I don't know. I'm just talking. I enjoy talking, especially about this. It's just, it's so beautiful. So yeah, that is the awakening of the entity and using this new catalyst to unblock and balance further energy centers. And yes, that is correct. That is what you're doing as somebody who has awakened from the slumber of the separate self. Conclusions. We talked about a lot of stuff here, but most important is the catalyst and how we use it to unblock, activate, energize, balance the energy centers. Catalyst is everything. Catalyst is the sun shining outside, the thoughts flowing through your mind, the man talking on the other side of the screen right now. Catalyst is everything. It is how you use it through your energy centers to just simply realize the self. Like the music has been playing there. The music has been playing there for so long, and you have been listening. You have been listening all this time. But you see, it seems to me that when you start using catalysts from the higher energy centers, all you can do is radiate. And what is there to radiate? Love. So I talked about how you create with love and how you should. I was going to bring it to the conclusions here. I hope I'm remembering well. But yeah, how you can create with love, with your passion, with what you do. Just listen to yourself. You know this. You know what you love doing. And you're doing it right now. You just won't admit it. You won't be honest with yourself and say, yes, this is what I love doing. And so, I mean, I don't want to tell you anything specific, but just be. I always give the same advice, right? Just be. Because anything else seems to be, overly complex. when we give shades and words and titles and colors to it, it just becomes like, oh, okay, I need to do this. No, just be yourself. You know who you are. And I don't think I have much to say about that. But this catalyst that you're getting is to be used with love and compassion and wisdom. Wisdom is the right use of love, the proper use, the balanced use of love. And then once you have enough wisdom, you know that the next process is just balancing this wisdom and love. So, oh my God, everything is just so bright. I love it. All right. I don't think I have much to say, so I'm not going to keep talking, but just leave you with that. You know who you are. Don't get befuddled with my words. Just take a second. Take a deep breath. Inhale. Exhale. And feel yourself. That is who you are. That's it. No thinking. Just feeling. Just being. That's all I got today. Thank you so much. If you want to support my work, as usual, links are in the description. I started this new series on the Law of One because I felt once I did the interview with Gary and Austin that there was a lot of people that needed basic concepts explained. And I never thought about this. I realized in the questions that a lot of people asked that there were some concepts that were so basic that I needed to give coverage aside from what I do here in the raw material. So that is going to go on for as long as necessary, as long as there are concepts to define and put into context. So that's a beautiful thing that I'm doing right now that I love, and I felt the need for that. I thank you again for watching this far. It's been an hour and change as usual. I have nothing else to say, but remember, just be. I love you. Thank you for being. I'll see you in part 3, and we'll finish session 54.